So, what's the best way to conduct an interview with a potential employee? Hey guys, I'm Gabrielle Boucher with the Millennial Solution, and this is your Millennial Minute. How you interview a job candidate or someone who's interested in working for you is so incredibly important. In fact, a lot of hiring managers or just business owners in general underestimate the power of the interview. Your job interview should really not only talk about what type of person that you're looking for, it should set expectations for what your employee can expect to be doing and seeing, experiencing, and liking about working with you. A big challenge that a lot of folks have when they're interviewing employees is that they put on this show of what it's going to look like or be like when they join your organization. Now, sometimes if you have a hiring department, it's not your fault. You have the recruiters, you have the hires, the people who are conducting the interview, and those are sometimes different than the folks who are actually inside of the office looking at what the culture is really like. And sometimes there's a disconnect. That disconnect can lead to retention problems, frustration, lack of communication, and frankly, just overall corporate disloyalty. Because if an employee comes in, has a great interview, is recruited by someone, and has this bright, shiny idea of what it's like to work for you, and they come in and it ends up not being that way, well, you can lead to a really frustrated workforce and higher turnover problems. So that's why having a great strategy going into an interview process is absolutely key. I'm going to share with you the 3 big strategies that we use when conducting employee interviews to help you be better prepared and not so boxy, cagey, and pre-planned. Here are my big tips. Number 1, ask open-ended questions. Rather than giving them an option or an example, give them just an opportunity for them to answer for themselves. So asking them questions like, what was your favorite thing about the last job that you had? Helping them really think through kind of that positivity side of things. It's important to keep in mind if someone's going to badmouth the company that they past worked at, they're probably going to badmouth you in the future too. So be careful and listen to how folks talk about their past work experiences. Number 2, be okay with silence. Sometimes it's easy to fill in the gaps when someone isn't responding. You maybe want to jump in if you ask a question and they're thinking about it. You want to give them an example. Try not to do that because you're going to then impede maybe the answer that they were going to be providing. So make sure that you let them kind of sit and marinate on it. Not everyone is a verbal processor. Some folks are more quiet and they need to think through an answer before they get back to you. And that's perfectly fine. Be okay with the silence. And the third is to have specific follow-up questions ready to go. That way, when you have someone who answers a question and you want to dig further, you can ask questions like, what makes you say that? Or what has your experience been like with that? Or what would you have done differently in that situation? And that way you're actually going to get them to continue to expound, especially if they're the types that are just going to be doing really quick answers. So you really want to make sure that you get a good picture about what type of person that you're looking to bring in. Now, some quick tips of things not to do. Now, I know it was really popular in the last 10 years to do the situational type interview questions. So the tell me of a time question. If you're in hiring, you know what I'm talking about. Those have really been overused. So be careful to not rely too much on those, where a lot of times they are opportunities for an employee to maybe paint something in a rosier picture than what really happened. On one side, it can be helpful because it can give you some insight into how they actually work. But on the other hand, because they are so overused, we have people coming to interviews with kind of more constructed stories than actually what happened. I would prefer giving them a scenario for them to solve in the moment rather than having them tell me of a time where they maybe did something well or should have improved on something. The other thing you need to stop doing, stop with this, what are your 3 strengths and 3 weaknesses? It's not helpful. Everyone says communication or strategy, or they're using the same words, and it's not helpful. So don't waste a perfectly good interview question on something that's pretty staged and not really helpful overall. My big tip when it comes to interviewing is to see your interview experience as pre-boarding. Pre-boarding is that thing that comes before onboarding. If you guys haven't watched my videos on onboarding, go back and check them out. your interview process is a great way for you to start priming your applicant to get excited about working for you. So again, be honest, but paint the picture of what it's like. A lot of folks are now doing experience-based interviews. So maybe it's not an interview based off of their skill set, but it's an interview based off of what it's like to work there. Who is it that they're hanging out with? What are they doing when it comes to lunchtime? Or how do projects get handled? So that way they can touch, feel, experience what it's really like working on the job. So consider creative ways that you can do job interviews, not just the typical come into the office and we'll interview you one-on-one. Find different ways to put people in situations that they're going to be in when they're actually at work. Sit and watch and see how they react. That's it from me. I'm Gabrielle Bochet, and that was your Millennial Minute.